It took them years. So many years. Years of dismissed pleas, years of being the outsider, years of watching her wreak havoc. But finally, just recently, sitting across from me in my tiny Seattle apartment, my parents looked at me, truly saw me, and begged for my forgiveness. It was a moment I'd longed for, a moment that felt bittersweet, like a victory I was almost too tired to celebrate. To understand why that apology meant so much, you have to understand what it was like growing up with my younger sister, Chloe. I'm 23, she's 18, and for most of our lives, I genuinely believed she was the incarnation of chaos. My parents, on the other hand, saw an angel. A miracle child, they called her, because my mom had a miscarriage before Chloe was born. Chloe became their beacon of hope, showered with affection, the absolute center of our family's universe. And me? I was just there. When we were kids, I loved her, truly. But I quickly started to see a side of Chloe that nobody else did. She was a master manipulator, brilliant at twisting stories and playing the victim. I remember one birthday, I got this incredible antique pocket watch from our grandparents. It was a family heirloom, and I was thrilled. Chloe, though, was clearly jealous. She kept asking to share it, and when I said no, it was my birthday gift. After all, she tried to get my parents involved. They couldn't do much, since it was from the grandparents. Later that night, Chloe, knowing I was terrified of spiders, snuck a big house spider into my pillowcase. I woke up screaming, feeling it crawl on me. My parents rushed in, all concern. Chloe acted surprised and caring, but when we were alone, she just grinned and told me she'd done it to teach me a lesson. No remorse, just that creepy little smile. It was chilling. Another time, I finally worked up the courage to invite my crush, David, over to watch a movie. I was giddy, excited, picked out a special dress. The moment David arrived, Chloe accidentally spilled a whole glass of juice all over me. She laughed as I scrambled to change, mortified. But she wasn't done. She stayed with us the whole time, narrating embarrassing childhood stories, making me feel utterly humiliated. As David was leaving, she smirked at him and said he could do much better than me. He left quickly, clearly uncomfortable. I couldn't believe how cruel she was. I tried to tell my parents about her antics over and over again. They always just brushed it off, saying she was young and naive. They never saw it. To them, I was the troublemaker, always complaining. So, eventually, I just stopped trying. Chloe remained their favorite, and I was the straightforward outsider. I focused on school, got into a good college, and eventually moved out. Moving away, for a while, felt like freedom. But every time I came home for breaks, Chloe made it clear I wasn't welcome. She'd ignore me, avoid sitting near me at meals, interrupt me when I spoke to our parents. She'd mess with my stuff, borrowing things and returning them damaged or not at all. My parents would just tell us to get along. So I started making excuses, spending breaks with college friends instead. My parents didn't really mind, seeing it as me being independent. Chloe, on the other hand, didn't have the grades for a 4-year college, so she stayed home, going to community college. I, meanwhile, landed a great job in Seattle. I kept in touch with my parents, but I rarely went home, and I had zero contact with Chloe. That's how things were until recently. My father had a near-fatal heart attack. It was terrifying. My mom called me, and I booked the first flight home. He survived, thankfully, but it was a huge scare. He was told to work out, take his meds, and he started talking about wanting more family time. I understood. I stayed for a few days, working remotely. But Chloe was visibly agitated by my presence. I tried to avoid conflict, especially after Dad's health scare. Then, one morning at breakfast, Dad suggested a family vacation. It had been years. I had reservations, but it was important to him, so I agreed. Chloe wasn't thrilled, but she went along. Dad made all the arrangements. I cleared my schedule, told colleagues not to contact me, I genuinely wanted to enjoy time with my parents. But at the airport, I found out my ticket was cancelled. My father swore he'd paid for it. We checked, and out of 4 tickets, only mine was gone. I stood there, trying to process it, and then I saw Chloe. She had that sly smile, the same one from all those times she'd successfully pulled off one of her manipulative tricks. It hit me instantly, she had done it. Probably from Dad's computer. I started yelling. She just stood there, smiling. I told my parents, "It's Chloe." She didn't want me to come. My mom immediately dismissed me. "Your sister would never do something like that. Stop being jealous." My dad tried to blame the airline. I was beyond frustrated. They couldn't fathom their miracle child being capable of such deception. There was nothing I could do. No other flights that day. I could have flown the next day, but honestly, after all that, the thought of traveling alone to a family trip or sharing a room with Chloe was unbearable. Dad initially hesitated, suggesting they go home and replan, but then he started talking about how long it had been since his last vacation. Mom agreed, saying I traveled so much for work anyway, I wouldn't miss out. It felt like they wanted me to insist they go without me. So I did. I told them to go, not wanting their money to be wasted. They readily agreed. It was clear they didn't mind being a family of 3. I went back to Seattle, not wanting to spend my entire leave alone in their house. I tried to enjoy my time off, reconnected with friends, read books. They video called sometimes from their trip, looking happy. My absence hadn't affected them at all, it seemed. I wasn't heartbroken, but I felt excluded, another painful reminder of their favoritism. I kept wishing they'd finally see Chloe for who she was. And then, one morning, my wish came true. Days into their trip, I woke up to several missed calls from my mother. My heart leaped. Dad's health? I called back, terrified. She picked up, sounding distraught. My father's essential heart medications were disappearing, day by day. This was critical, he couldn't miss them. They were in a foreign country, unsure if they could get replacements. They searched everywhere. My mom went to Chloe's hotel room next door, wanting to borrow sunscreen while Chloe was out. To her absolute shock, she found all of Dad's missing pills tucked away in Chloe's bedside table. A chilling revelation. She immediately called my father. He rushed in, seeing his stolen medication. That's when the truth finally dawned on them. Their beloved miracle child had been intentionally jeopardizing his life. My mom's voice quivered as she asked if they should confront Chloe. I told her not to, not yet. They needed to gather their thoughts, their evidence. Chloe was a master manipulator, a confrontation now would be futile. But something must have happened that night, because I received a late-night call from my father. His voice trembled. Chloe was in jail. He told me she'd had a full-blown tantrum when they confronted her about the meds, throwing things, shouting insults. She accused him of booking a ticket for me, saying he should never have allowed me on their vacation. She threatened them, saying if they kept having a relationship with me, she'd teach them a lesson. The hotel called the authorities. She refused to calm down, insulted the officers, and was taken into custody. She'd be released in 24 hours. Desperate to come home, they tried to reschedule their flights, but then they discovered their passports and wallets were missing. Chloe, of course. She'd either discarded them or hidden them. They were stranded, no documents, no money. It was the first time my parents truly saw her. My mother, who had defended Chloe for years, was begging me for help. She was overwhelmed, utterly distraught at the realization of her angelic daughter's true nature. I told them not to worry, that I'd send money via Western Union, but they had to find their passports first. I was sure Chloe hadn't actually destroyed them. They finally realized I'd been right all along about her. They were grateful, and they apologized. Part of me still wished I could completely forgive them, but it's hard to shake the feeling of being deprived of their love for so long. They came home. Faced with no other choice, Chloe eventually revealed where she'd hidden their passports after they threatened to call the police again. Once they were home, my parents confronted her, telling her she needed to pack her bags and leave. This was it for them. Another screaming match erupted. Chloe hurled accusations, saying she didn't want to share them with anyone, claiming they'd pushed her to the brink by inviting me on the trip. She insisted they disown me. That's when they understood the depth of her jealousy and resentment. In a fit of desperation, she threatened to tell everyone they'd neglected and mistreated her as a child, even threatening to make false statements to the police. This genuinely terrified my parents, well-respected doctors in our community. Chloe continued to make their lives miserable. She got furious when they talked to me, broke dishes, stole car keys, played loud music all night. One night, my mother called me in tears. Chloe had gone on a rampage, breaking furniture, all because my mom was too tired to cook for her. I was so worried about them. I couldn't go home, it would only make Chloe worse. I urged my parents to get a lawyer. It came to a head one night. Chloe came at them with a knife during a big fight. They called the police. She was arrested for assault. Finally, with Chloe in custody, my parents pursued a permanent solution. An attorney advised them on eviction. They filed a formal notice, then bailed her out and handed it to her. They filed a lawsuit. It was heartbreaking for them, taking their own daughter to court, but necessary. The court granted an eviction order. Chloe was out by next week. My parents finally had peace. They came to stay with me in Seattle, for a few weeks, a much-needed break. And it was here, in my apartment, that they finally opened up. Their voices were laced with humility and regret. They admitted they'd been blind to Chloe's true nature, begging for my forgiveness. My father expressed remorse for not listening to me. My mother's voice trembled as she acknowledged her mistake, the pain of realizing how they'd failed me by favoring Chloe. I told them I appreciated them taking the first step. I shared some of my most painful memories of growing up with Chloe's torment. They listened, utterly shocked, dismayed at the extent of what I had endured alone. They acknowledged my pain, the isolation I felt. They explained their favoritism, always seeing Chloe as their miracle baby. It was a bittersweet moment. While not the ideal way to mend our relationship, it was a turning point. For the first time in years, we were truly acknowledging the issues that had plagued our family. I told them it would take time to trust them again, and we agreed to work through it together. As the days passed, we explored Seattle, shared meals, reconnected. Their decision to be here wasn't just about distance from Chloe, but a desire to rebuild the family they almost lost. They needed a fresh start, and so did I. We've talked about Chloe. She's staying with a friend now. We can't just abandon her. As parents, they feel a profound sense of responsibility. We've accepted that her behavior might stem from deeper issues. We want to explore a mental health evaluation, but she's an adult, we can't force her. My parents plan to reach out when they get home, to see if she's open to discussion. I won't contact her, she still holds a grudge against me, and I don't want to escalate anything. I've encouraged them to meet her in public, hoping it will make her control her emotions. Our primary goal is for Chloe to understand our perspective, and to recognize that we still deeply love and care for her. It's not about assigning blame anymore, but about trying to come together to address these profound issues. After all this, do you think it's possible for our family to truly heal?